Today we're finally driving the Tesla Cybertruck. We are in a Foundation Series dual motor. It makes 593 horsepower. We have 123 kilowatt hour battery pack, 310 miles of range, costs around $102,000. Let's walk you guys around the Cybertruck and then we'll take it for a drive and give you guys some driving impressions. It is as wild inside as it is out, and it's also pretty crazy to drive. So there's a lot of familiar Tesla looking stuff here, from the minimalist interior, the screen with having just pretty much every control is right here except for a few steering wheel buttons and of course your window switches and a button to pop your door open. But otherwise, this is a pretty Spartan, plain, and very Tesla-like interior in keeping with what they've done in the past. No real big surprises here. It's just a whole lot of design and some compromises due to that design. We'll talk about that a little bit in this video. But overall, this is just going to be kind of me poking around this truck and seeing how it drives later on. Let's get started. Getting in and out, pretty easy. Good ingress, egress, not too high. We are in the entry exit ride height level right now, which is the lowest setting. Massive all-terrain tires, and just looks like something out of the future. It's crazy. The DRLs, I mean, you look at this and you think, how is this legal? It's pretty crazy. Already a few recalls on this truck. The first one, I believe, was the wheel covers. They were digging into the tire's sidewall and causing issues, causing wear, so everyone had to pull those off. Second recall, I believe, was the accelerator pedal kept coming off, or at least the aluminum sill plate kept coming off, so there's a rivet there for that. And I believe the third recall had something to do with the motor here for the enormous windshield wiper. Wow, look at that. Just insane. It has a surprisingly small front trunk. We'll show you guys that in a little bit. You can open up the bed area with this tonneau cover with a button right here, and that just folds into the back. Pretty normal sized bed for a pickup truck. Of course, due to the design of this, it doesn't have as easy access from the sides, but everything else is pretty straightforward. Button here, lower the tailgate, and it's all pretty well enclosed too. It's nice to have this stepped tie down point right here. You've got a trunk area in the back, which is very nice, much like the Rivian and the Honda Ridgeline. And it's all pretty solid plastic. This doesn't seem like it would get too beat up at all, which is nice. Of course, you lose all rearward visibility via your tiny little rear view mirror when you close that tonneau cover. There is a rear view camera. It's in the screen. You can see we've got Foundation Series right here. The build quality on this Cybertruck looks pretty good. The panel gaps are somewhat inconsistent in some areas, but overall looks pretty nice. You can see, some tighter spaces here, some wider spaces here, but it's all stainless steel. Can't really complain too much. This was just washed. You can see all the fingerprints after just a few minutes, and a few times opening and closing the doors. They've already shown up, but that's just the nature of the beast. A lot of people are wrapping these, and that's getting them protected and, better usable, I guess, for day-to-day use. One interesting note, these tires, for being an aggressive all-terrain, have very little tread on them. The tread depth itself is not that big, and that's partially for fuel efficiency, partially for road noise, on-road handling, but it is a pretty aggressive-looking all-terrain and still should get you around pretty well off-road. These are 285/65 R20s. I don't know what that translates to, maybe around a 33, 34-inch tire, but they're massive. Let's hop inside. Of course, you open the doors with these buttons right here. That pops them open. Completely flat floor back here. Another screen to control your climate. It's a lot of space. A little bit of headroom here between your head and this glass. I don't believe there's a center armrest. I mean, in the back seat, it's all pretty straightforward. Tons of legroom, a lot of space. You've got some red ambient lighting here, a massive panoramic sunroof, and a view of this very minimalist interior. Let's pop the front trunk. One update to this Cybertruck versus some of the early builds is it has this little plastic protector with this corner that was very, very sharp, cutting people. Still a lot of sharp edges on this. You got to be careful. Don't stick your finger in there. I don't know if it'll chop it off anymore, but early versions didn't have a stopper when it lowered. Surprisingly small front trunk too, considering how much space there is between the cabin and this area. There's just about 3 or 4 feet of dashboard between the steering wheel and here. And of course there's HVAC and stuff, but overall this truck is pretty simple underneath. Not sure why there isn't a larger front trunk in this Cybertruck. Still, you can put a few things up here, enough room for groceries, and then the rest of it can go in the bed or the rest of the vehicle. Yeah, look at these edges, just wild. Here's a button to lower that. Yeah, let's just take a minute to walk around this thing. I think the side angle is the craziest view of this. From behind, it doesn't even look like a real car. I like the stance, I like the size of the tires. They fill out the wheel wells nicely. I don't know, every angle of this thing is insane. The front DRL, the constant DRL is just crazy. Alright, let's go and let's drive it. Let's see how it is behind the wheel. We'll show you around the front seat a little bit first. 4950 PSI with your tires. We've got about 123 kilowatt hour battery pack. All right, so just like every other Tesla, all your controls are right here. We can control our ride height, our temperature. We get all of our apps here, navigation with a split screen display, music, various information. Here's all your climate controls. All of your vehicle controls are in here somewhere. Actually, while we just raise the truck up, let's go see what max ride height looks like. Wow, that's pretty dope. Still a pretty compromised breakover angle just because this is a long wheelbase truck, but good approach, good departure. All right, here are all your vehicle controls. As you can see, there is just a plethora of stuff over here. You can customize everything, change your dynamics, your drive mode. Right now we've got a custom drive mode set. It's comfort, sport, off-road. You've got locking rear differential, towing settings are right here. 89% charge today, at least starting off with this video. And everything's pretty simply laid out here. I mean, it's all right here. Tesla started this whole business of putting everything in the screen, and they still kind of do it the best. This has iPhone levels of speed and responsiveness. Everything is organized pretty well. Everything's within a few clicks. This is how you do it. I think everyone else just doesn't quite make their infotainments like Tesla does. And in this Cybertruck, this seems to be pretty well organized. Immediately, I'm able to come in here and pretty much figure everything out within a few minutes. Do I wish there were a few more physical controls? Yeah, I wish we had a turn signal stock instead of these buttons on the steering wheel, which remind me of something out of a motorcycle or a Lamborghini. But they do take some getting used to, but at the end of the day, I guess it's fine. You do have some quick access controls here for your cameras, which is nice. Cruise control, wipers here. Here's the button for your headlights, flash your high beams. Some of these controls like high beams and headlamps and turn signals I think are better relegated to a stock, but that's just my opinion. Here's the rear view mirror. It seems like it's just here kind of as a formality. Ultimately, when you're driving this, you're going to be using the mirror that shows up on the screen. So if you close the camera, let's see here, I just put it in reverse. If you close the camera, it'll show up right there. There's this tiny little rear view mirror, which is kind of hard to see. See, I've been angling these side mirrors back and in a little bit so I can see behind me a little bit easier. the swiping to go into drive or reverse actually isn't as annoying as I thought it would be. It's well placed. It's right here. As soon as you press the brake pedal, it pops up and you can just set off. And here comes the next craziest thing, is the steering in this Cybertruck. You can hear it moving all four wheels. Crazy four-wheel steering. You can see in the camera right there what it looks like. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Ultimately, I feel like this doesn't really have that different of a turning radius compared to a normal truck, but the rate at which it steers because of this yoke and the steer-by-wire system is insane. On initial impressions driving this down the road, I actually quite like the steering. It's got a nice solid feel to it. And it seems pretty responsive too, which is great. We've all seen the Lexus yoke video where it had a ton of lag. That's not the case here. All right, off we go. Pretty awesome power. Not a ton of bite from the brakes, but oh, you can one pedal drive this. Everyone loves the Cybertruck. It gets so much attention, so many looks. I feel like you either love it or you hate it, but man, in person, it is something to behold. You get the whole gamut of reactions in this, and I would assume there probably isn't anything else on the road right now that attracts this much attention. So, steady state cruising. You can hear just a little bit of electric motor whine, which is kind of neat. No fake piped in noise or anything like that. Visibility is pretty heavily compromised. I can't even see these cars right there, so I have to be looking around this pillar quite a bit. Hard to get around that with just the overall design of this truck. Forward visibility is great with this massive, low sloping windshield. I'm a little bit confused on these turn signals. Haven't quite gotten the hang of them yet. I don't know if it's a soft press or a hard press, but let's see how this handles. A lot of tire squeal. A lot of understeer. Even though this has four-wheel steer, it is definitely grip limited by these all-terrain tires. Traction control system does limit you quite a bit coming out of corners, but gosh, acceleration in this is pretty impressive. This is not the Cyber Beast, but I don't think you'd really be wanting for more power than this thing has. It's pretty impressive. Cruise control engages just like any other Tesla on the highway. A little bit of wind noise, a little bit of road noise, but nothing outrageous. It's just the most outrageous vehicle to be in and look out of. And to drive, it's honestly pretty normal, except for the steering. Yeah, it is a thing to behold, that's for sure. It's cool. It's cool because it's weird. I like that when you put your turn signal on, it shows you a side view with that mirror, so you don't have to look into your blind spot. And I guess the turn signal cancels automatically once you've changed lanes. All right, that's what it is. That's smart. That makes sense. All right, it's canceling, slowing down automatically as we hit this highway entrance ramp. We are in sport mode now. Let's see how this changes the dynamics of this Cybertruck. If it gets a little bit better behind the wheel as far as handling goes. You do have to recalibrate your brain a little bit with this yoke steering. It's so fast at low speeds. do appreciate the wide-angle mirror on the passenger side. Good throttle response in sport mode. Yeah, this thing boogies. You're going to be replacing these all-terrain tires quite a bit, I imagine. It is under 7,000 pounds, though, thankfully. A little bit lighter than the Rivian. All right, much flatter, much better handling here in sport mode. Yeah, it's properly quick. Same graphic display here showing you what's around you, same as every other Tesla. You know, once you get kind of used to this Tesla ecosystem and everything that's built into this display and screen, you get used to looking over to your right instead of ahead of you. It all kind of starts to make sense, and it works. It is a little bit of a learning curve initially, but honestly, it doesn't really feel that different from any other Tesla product. It just feels more truck-like, a bit more weight to the steering. Of course, the yoke is different. Your interaction point there is different. The screen is about the same. There's different graphics, different design, and you're just surrounded by this insane cabin. But yeah, it still just drives like a Tesla. I think there is kind of a rawness to this driving experience that I wasn't quite expecting. I like the motor whine. I like the steering weight. I kind of like a little bit of tread growl. This feels like a cool driving experience. It's fun. And then you look back and you see the stainless steel reflection in your side mirror, and you remember what you're driving and how insane it looks, and how it's just everyone's necks are craning and people are rolling down their windows, people are taking photos, kids are laughing and smiling. You know, it's an experience. Windshield wiper seems like it actually would work pretty well, just because it wipes everything in front of the driver. I like that. I don't know how we turn it off. There we go, let's go off. Very, very little steering angle required to get around corners. Yeah, it rips. It's properly quick. I do wish the cameras were a little bit higher resolution for those mirrors, but you do get used to them and they show you what you need to see at the end of the day. This truck isn't as massive as maybe it feels. You get into this and the interior is so wide and so expansive, and you've got all the space in front of you. It feels like you're just going to be running over everything because you can't really see how far and how wide this is. But it actually works out okay, and that it doesn't feel too cumbersome to drive once you kind of get familiar with the distances of everything. This is some of the coolest electric motor whine that I've heard in any new EV. It really does sound good. Here are your sun visors. They don't do a whole lot. I've got to say, I dig it. I like it. There was a pretty long period of time when I was heavily considering a Model 3 Performance as a daily driver, as a track vehicle, just something fun. And instead I went with my Civic Type R, and I'm really glad I did. But there is something cool and different and special to the way Teslas drive versus every other electric vehicle. They go about everything differently, and some of it makes sense, some of it is controversial and probably could use some changes, but they are set in their ways about how they want to do things, and sometimes it works out pretty well. And this Cybertruck is just kind of in keeping with that philosophy. Everything here is dictated by the design. At the end of the day, the design dominates the experience, and the rest of it is just a regular old Tesla in this crazy, crazy outfit. I'd be very curious to drive this off-road, see how it performs on a trail. Maybe we'll get a chance to take one of these to Hollyoaks at some point. But, yeah, compared to the Rivian, I think I prefer the dynamics of the R1T. It just handles better. It seems more dynamically dialed in. The Tesla Cybertruck feels a little bit better built and higher quality than the Rivian. I wasn't as impressed with the way the Rivian felt over bumps. That may have changed with the most recent model, but the Rivian just felt a little bit cheap from an NVH standpoint, and this feels slightly better, especially for the six-figure price tag here. All right, guys. Well, those are my thoughts on the new Tesla Cybertruck. Pretty cool driving experience. It's better and nicer and more refined and just kind of, I don't know, it's more enjoyable to drive than I expected it to be. It's cool. It delivers. Is it a little bit overhyped? Probably. But nothing like this has ever really been made. At least from a design standpoint. It's all pretty wild. Anyway, we'll leave you guys here. Found some random parking lot here. We'll wrap this video up in. I am out in unknown territory out here north of where I usually film. So hold this to put it into park. And that's it. I think we just kind of take the key card and leave. The rear lights. It literally just looks like a movie prop car. It's crazy. Just crazy. I could see this being useful though as a truck. I mean, the bed is a decent size. You've got a nice spacious back seat. It works. Let's see what the rearward visibility is like with the tonneau cover open. I don't imagine that it's great, but oh yeah, here's your charge port, nicely integrated into the fender here. This does take a little bit longer to charge than your regular Model Y or Model X, just because it has a larger battery. Probably around 40 minutes from 5 to 80%. Yeah, the attention you get in this is insane. Everybody looks. It's not for the shy. It feels like you're driving a supercar with the level of attention that you get. One nice thing is you can kind of get a sense for your extremities in this display here and how it shows what's around you. So that's good. Shows you all the other vehicles. Rearward visibility. Not much. Yeah. This is the flimsiest, cheapest piece in the interior, is that rear view mirror. Everything else feels pretty solid. There's a nice suede liner to the headliner. The leather all feels pretty, excuse me, high quality. Nice suede down here too. Good size center console. Yeah, it's all for the money. Feels about right. And in keeping with what Tesla's done in the past. I would say compared to the F-150 Lightning, the Lightning feels a little bit more refined. The Rivian is maybe a better overall vehicle, more usable, kind of a jack of all trades, and a master of most of them. And I haven't spent any time in Chevrolet's new Silverado EV. I haven't heard great things with the handling of that truck, just because the tire pressure is like 80 psi or something ridiculous. Irrespective of its looks, just from the driving experience, this feels a little bit more special behind the wheel to drive. It just feels different. And part of that is the steering, part of that is the sound, and the rest of it is just the way this thing looks. It's insane. So it has that going for it. Puts a smile on your face. It's crazy to walk up to this thing and see it in person. Tonight, this video is actually the first time I've been up close to a Tesla Cybertruck. I haven't really seen one, except for just driving around casually on the road in regular traffic. So you guys are literally getting my first impressions in this video today. Once you get accustomed to, the buttons to pop the door and how to use the screen and, just some of the weirdness around here, it's all pretty simple and intuitive. It's interesting, when the tonneau cover is open, you do not get that rear view mirror display here, so you actually have to use it, and it's a bit challenging sometimes. We'll throw a few more clips of me driving this around the area, getting acquainted with it, but I think we're just going to wrap up the video there. Thank you so much for watching. That's the new Tesla Cybertruck. Hope to get some more time in one of these at some point, but until then, that's going to be it for this one. We'll see you guys later. Take care.
Now make a U-turn to stay on Walton Boulevard. In 1,000 feet, turn right onto Rochdale Drive North. Now turn right onto Rochdale Drive North.
It's neighborhood speeds
In 500 feet,
where the steering
turn left
gets really
towards Greenleaf
weird.
Drive.
We just switched into a night mode. It's a little bit warmer of a
Now bear
color
left towards
temperature
Greenleaf Drive.
and a little bit more pleasing to the eye.
Now turn left onto Valley Stream Drive. In 500 feet, turn left onto North Livernois Road. Now turn left onto North Livernois Road.
And the thing about Tesla is they're always improving, they're always changing, they're always adding things and creating hardware and software updates to their vehicles. So in a year, this will be a pretty different truck than it is now. And that's always a good thing. Even if you did get one of the earlier builds without some of the extra few things here and there, they're going to keep refining this. And
In 1,000 feet, turn
there's something to be
right
said
onto
about
West
that.
Yankton Road. Now turn right onto West Yankton Road.
Yeah, at first I was a little bit thrown off by the turn signal, but it's actually very intuitive, and that it just reads the road conditions around you and stays on for however long that it needs to, which is very clever, actually.